sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are back in live here on a Tuesday night on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Jay Steph is joining us. Wherever and however you may be watching and listening, thanks for making us part of your evening. We got a lot going on, but I'll tell you what. The Cavs and the Thunder, they did the business. Miami fans, they're feeling pretty salty already about the Heat being swept in all 4 games against the Cavs. But I'm liking with what I'm seeing from this really young Cavs team that, again, if Boston makes it through this, I can honestly see the Celtics and Cavs in the Eastern Conference Final. Like that's probably the best looking Cavs team I've seen in a while. That's a very good team.
That would be a very, very, interesting matchup to say the least. Just because, we've seen the Celtics come out on top. We've seen the Cavs fall short and everything. But I think that this Cavs coach, they finally got the right one and put in place. And I'm telling you this right now, I don't see this Cavs team losing.
No, neither do I.
I do not see them losing. And frankly, do you have any final predictions on who you believe is going to be in the finals?
So that's the hard part, and because obviously Boston wants to reign their title, they want to defend it. But when you got the Cavs and you got the Thunder, and I think quite honestly, I love with what I'm seeing from Minnesota. I mean, they're physical. Anthony Edwards, when he gets on fire and he's going off within the perimeter and everybody else follows him, the Lakers are screwed. There's no chance that they can honestly end up stopping with what Anthony Edwards creates. And then the rest of the T-Wolves and Chris Finch, their head coach there, he's got everything working right. So
that game's on tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is.
Ooh,
I'm telling you. So let's explain about the Cavs. So it's been quite a long time for Cavs fans because of the fact of, number one, you dealt with the departure of LeBron James, okay? And a lot of people felt, well, they're just going to go back into the basement and they're going to continue to be that team like they were before LeBron, after LeBron, and once again after LeBron twice. So to me, the Cavs, with what Donovan Mitchell and the rest of this whole entire group, and Chase mentioned it before, the head coach from there, I liked him. I like the coach. I think the Cavs right now have that hot hand where they could honestly be a force and make themselves get into the Eastern Conference Final. Because if you look at the Celtics right now, and I love the Celtics, I really do. I love their group. I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they're the best duo pair. But if you look at the Cavs for the last few years, what has been what really has been coming out of Cleveland themselves that's been a big impact since LeBron left the second time? It's been quite a while. They had to address a lot of different players from, Darius Garland. You had Colin Sexton. You had a bunch of, young players. They were back into this. They were back into this phase again, where it took a little bit of time. But when Donovan Mitchell came in from Utah, Okay, when he came in to Cleveland and just figured everything out. So we talk about Oklahoma City a lot because of the fact of 2 years ago, they were a very young team. SGA was building his stardom, and then everybody else started to build along with him. And then, not to mention, they get Chet Holmgren, and they get a big-bodied four, sometimes plays five. They got a guy there. But it took a little bit of time because you needed the experience in front of them in order for them to be a threat in the playoffs. That is what is the biggest crucial thing about the NBA playoffs, is when you've got experience, you got your young pieces that'll give you minutes, they'll give you shots, and they'll give you, a little bit of time to basically work up offensively or defensively. That's what you got to do. And part of the reason is why you get a lot of these well-respected coaches. Chris Finch in Minnesota, he's doing everything right now for the T-Wolves, and they've got the Lakers up on their back. And then the other thing is, too, you watched what Denver was when Mike Malone was there, because to me, he had a point. You try to coach up and work up some of these young kids. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you can honestly build these young kids to, number one, be prepared for the playoffs, because in the regular season, it doesn't matter what your regular season record is, as long as, one, it punches you into the playoffs, two, you've got momentum going into the playoffs because you ultimately want to be a threat. This is also part of the reason Houston needs to learn from this experience, because it's been quite a while with them since the departure of James Harden and Chris Paul and multiple other players that had came from that organization. It took a very long time. But Cleveland, I love this version of them, because you got to think, the organization themselves, we knew with what they were before the chosen one arrived, and that was LeBron. Okay, they had some players, but they were not to the extent until LeBron got there. Then you watch Mo Williams, you watch Anderson Varejao, you watch a lot of other players, and they got to a final, but you knew how great the Spurs were, okay? With Pop, with Manu, with Tony Parker, and Tim Duncan. Okay, that was just going to be bound to happen. Once LeBron leaves and goes to South Beach to Miami and joins Dwayne Wade in the Heat, look at what the Cavs were after that. They completely dismantled. They got the number one overall pick, and that was Kyrie Irving. Okay, they had to build him up in his young state. And then it wasn't until LeBron announced he's coming back to Akron. Okay, he's coming back to Cleveland. And sure enough, you pair him up with Kyrie, you pair him up with Kevin Love, and they had a bunch of other really good players. 2015, they lost against Golden State. So what? They came back in 2016 being down in the series, and they got the Cavs their first ever title. First ever. So there's something to be thankful about that. But once the Golden State Warriors, they weren't shook up. They added Kevin Durant. They won 2 more titles. And LeBron leaves to go to Los Angeles. And then where did they leave the Cavs after that? Not to mention how many head coaches have come through in and out of this organization through that span. So Cleveland looks much better today than they have been since I've seen them with LeBron out of there twice. And even before LeBron was drafted. So this Cavs team is finally starting to figure that out. Okay? You look around you in the entire city of Cleveland. I mean, the Guardians, they continue to be a threat. The Browns, man, did they have a heck of a draft, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. I know Chase missed the episode yesterday, but we got a lot to talk about with that. But the bottom line is that the Cavs, for years and years and years, they did not want to revert back to what they were. And they made a change. Go get Donovan Mitchell. Go and build a lot of the young core that you drafted and you needed to build consistency with. And they did just that. They swept the Miami Heat. They got the hot hand. And truthfully, if they make it to the Eastern Conference Final, and if Boston is there, I'm watching that game, and I think it's probably going to be 7 games in that series. It's going to be a lot to handle. But I love the coach. I love their personnel. I love exactly what they do right. They control the clock. They control their ball handling skills, and they at least the possessions, and they take the right shots. And they have the right players to take those shots. So I love what the Cavs were doing. But you could tell the Heat, they looked completely dismantled. All right. So I was thinking about this. Golden State, if you watch that game against Houston, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Houston's just got to get themselves a shooter that gets them up over the top. But they are a young core team that is only building up to their potential. This was Oklahoma City 2 years ago. And this is what Houston is in. Okay. I love the young kid Thompson. I love Jalen Green. But you got to get some veteran pieces in there. And you got to get an experienced shooter. That's why I think Kevin Durant, you add him onto this roster, and you got your offense. You got exactly the right guys there. So there's every bit of this that I think with where Houston is today and where they'll be at in the next few years, they will have that opportunity to be the team that gets over the top. They will be. But it's going to take a little bit of time. This stuff doesn't just happen overnight. And that's the one thing you have to understand about the NBA. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. But Golden State, call it what you will. Old, can't seem to play up to the standard. Who cares? I mean, I got Jimmy Butler up over there coming back from an injury and playing his tail off. And yet, Golden State, Draymond, Steph Curry, the whole group, Steve Kerr, the coach, they're all just doing the same exact thing that they've been doing for a long time. Continuing to remind you that veteran core, their veteran experience, obviously will overweigh the young core that hasn't built the experience yet. But Houston, they will get there. So, again, I thought it was pretty impressive. But at the same time, I mean, there were back and forth going on, by the way, between if you saw Dillon Brooks and you watched Jimmy Butler, they were going back and forth up and in that game. But at the same time, Golden State is reminding you, we've been doing this for a long time, and this may be our last hurrah. We don't know yet. So if you're going to make the best out of something, this is exactly the way that you kind of have to do it. So Golden State, that's why their experience is going to outweigh a lot of these youth groups. They really are. So I would take them to go into the second round, but I think after that, if Golden State plays Minnesota, I think Minnesota's got that series in 6. There's a lot of physicality, and then not to mention great coaching, who's up and on the uprise, and you got really good players that just know how to control the court. They know how to do that. So, but again, it's always so good to kind of see games like that. And really what it's doing is it's teaching the young group. That's really what it is. It's not bashing them and thinking they ain't capable of making the playoffs. I think it's more of just a teaching moment, and that's exactly what we need. So, Chase, I know you're happy and excited about the Cavs. I know that they're moving on, but I'm telling you, I think, how long has it been? They're finally figuring this out, because how many times have they been thrown in the basement and yet not being the team that can roster construct right, have the right coach for the amount of years going back and forth until they finally stabilize themselves. And again, before LeBron got drafted and twice he left Cleveland. This is a completely different group.
Yeah, the 2016 championship, and then you had LeBron for one more year after that, and then he went to the Lakers.
Yep.
And then, you went on that span with Kyrie Irving for, 2 years, 1 year by himself. And then, you go where you have Colin Sexton, and then you bring back Tristan Thompson, and, that whole, experiment did not work. And then you trade for Donovan Mitchell. You get Darius Garland and, all of the Evan Mobley. You start getting pieces that are coming in here, and like all you needed was the right coach for the job.
God, I love Evan Mobley, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, watching him and paired up, Darius Garland, he's doing his thing in the perimeter. And then Donovan Mitchell, I mean, he's just doing everything.
Yeah.
And you know what? It took Donovan Mitchell years to really kind of figure that out, because I loved watching him growing up in Utah with him and Rudy Gobert. And then once that team got dismantled, now you're seeing a more mature Donovan Mitchell just taking control.
Yeah, and he's embraced, the Cleveland atmosphere and the Cleveland sports city and everything. Like, he's seen a Instagram post with Jose Ramirez holding his Silver Slugger award, and the caption read, one of the greats in Cleveland. I want to be that leader and that voice. I want to be that person that is known like Jose. And to see that and how he's embracing this, like, it really shows tremendous value of what he brings to the city and how he actually feels. And I know that for years they've been looking for their coach since Tyronn Lue won the championship. It was more LeBron that brought that championship there than it was Tyronn Lue, let's be honest. But this coach that they got, it was the greatest thing that could have happened to the Cavs, because if it wasn't for him, they would not be where they are right now.
No, I really am happy of the upbringing that the Cavs have, truthfully, because it has been quite a long time. I've seen this team in multiple spurts. People were just asking, why even have a basketball team in Cleveland until LeBron arrived? And then all of a sudden,
let's bring another championship back. Like, let's give them a second one. Like,
why not?
You got so many NBA franchises that have multiple or like two NBA championships. Like, let's let Cleveland get a second one and bring that in here, because now, all of a sudden you're going to be talking about it as like, can Cleveland go on a run? Can they make it like two straight? Can they make it 3 in a row? Can they, get people in here in the offseason that are going to want to play for this team and whatnot and be a part of it? And like, who knows what's going to happen? You might see some top free agent want to come to Cleveland and that'll make a difference.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, there's many teams that want to shoot for a championship. OKC, Minnesota. Listen, I have never seen Minnesota be this good until I saw them what they were last year, and then they've built up the potential this year. And why is the card like this? Is the thing. The cards are in their favor for a few reasons. The Lakers, of course, are lacking in experience and size at the 4 and 5 spot. The other thing is Golden State, they have the experience, but they are kind of hitting a little bit of a wall with their age. The other thing is, I think the Western Conference could be Oklahoma City and Minnesota. I truly
Cat is not on Minnesota anymore.
No, he's on the Knicks. So that's the thing is because since that trade for Cat, they get Dante DiVincenzo, and with Julius Randle, that is a more physical team, and that is Chris Finch's identity. Physical play, attack the perimeter, score any way that you can, either from the wings or whether from right on beyond the arc, but get clean shots. Naz Reid in that last game, that was what was crucial about the Lakers, is because when Naz Reid didn't miss a basket, you're screwed.
And this is LeBron's probably last year in the NBA too.
Oh, again, I'm on the side of I'll believe it when I see it, truthfully. But until then, this is bad. Long term,
he's got much more left in him.
Well, remember this. We came back. We talked about this trade. Is long term, the Lakers absolutely won this one, because you're going to build around Luka, but you've got to get size, you got to get experience, and you got to build the young core that you have now with Dalton Connect and Austin Reeves. You have to do it. But as of right now, this is like another reincarnated Houston Rockets when James Harden, when they had Robert Covington as the 5. That's what this looked like. And that was what I feared the Lakers would look like if they did not get somebody. Like, go get Nikola Vucevic for all I care. play the 4, occasionally play the 5. It would have gotten them into the second round, but they didn't even do that. So that's the part I feared about the Lakers. But long term, they'll be fine. They'll be okay. I mean, it's just going to take a little bit of time, but this was what I feared the Lakers would have looked like. And you're already starting to see that. I mean, Minnesota's just toying with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I'm going to laugh my ass off if they lose.
Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I mean, bottom half of the hour, you'll be surprised at my top 10 teams. I took a long look of all the roster constructioning. You'll be surprised who I have up there, but few things to talk about. I am going to break down 2 schedules because a lot of this is going to understand Nico and the position he's going. You're going to see that from UCLA's schedule and Tennessee's schedule, and we'll talk about that here later on. But I also do think, I think because of a lot of the roster construction, this is the year. I think Chicago comes out of the basement in the NFC North, and I will talk a little bit more about that.
I also think Tennessee wins their division.
You know what? A lot of people have been talking about that. I've had nothing but Jags fans on my feeds, like left and right. I don't understand.
Like if you look at that roster and what they did, they have one of the best offensive line constructions in the offseason that they had. They got one of my favorite guys who torched Travis Hunter in the college football scene in Alec Ayumanor. And then you also pick up Chimmy, and then you also pick up your college teammate, Xavier Restrepo.
Yeah.
And now you've got, a good running back core. You've got the wide receivers. You've got the
core's a lot better.
It's just a matter of if Brian Callahan can get this team where he needs to go. But having Bill Callahan as your offensive line coach, getting this team where it needs to be, I think that Tennessee, if Brian Callahan can do this, I think that they can come out on top in this division. Yeah. Now, I also have a question I want to run by you, and I put this in the chat earlier.
Okay.
If, and it's a very big possibility, Cleveland gets the number 1 overall pick next year.
They got 2 first rounds.
Yep. And Arch Manning turns out to be, a Heisman Trophy winner, an undefeated guy in Texas, leads them to a national championship, turns out to be the guy everybody expects. Does Cleveland go after Arch Manning to be their franchise quarterback and then trade Shedeur or release him? Or does Cleveland trade that number 1 overall pick, get a haul, like maybe 2 first rounders and more, and keep Shedeur on the roster and make him the starting quarterback?
Well, respectfully, I would have to come back to that question until I see what the season looks like, because ultimately that is the question. But I really did like what Cleveland did. I don't understand why people kept bashing up on it, because first of all, you got a very good defensive front with Mason Graham paired up with Myles Garrett. The other thing is, I love their dual backfield that they got with Dylan Sampson and with Quinshon Judkins. I also do think that when you get a couple of other pieces as far as depth per se, Cleveland, they want to make this thing work. And when you look at teams like Pittsburgh, okay, they got Jack Sawyer, but once they ended up getting, Will Howard, it's like they're trying to reincarnate Big Ben for some reason. And the problem of this is, I just think this chemistry, and by the way, they're still adding weapons. They just got Robert Woods right after the draft. I don't understand
Johnson. Like, I understand that, like, a lot of people, but like, to answer your question, like, a lot of people didn't like it because we passed up on the generational talent.
Well, I just think it's because they're guilty by association because of Jimmy Haslam. But when you look at the inside, okay, when you look at Andrew Berry and what he addressed, and what Kevin Stefanski, his style of play is why he was a 2-time coach of the year. Like, you understand that, like, these here is what it's not just building you to try to build for that potential future. It's building you to be a competitive team for the next 5-year stretch. That's why a lot of these teams with the roster construction, this was so deep in this draft. And a lot of teams came out of this thing with either a B plus grade, or there was only about 5 teams I said yesterday that I really questioned their draft. I really did. I don't know what the direction is, but you could tell in the front offices what those GMs are thinking.
Yeah, and I know Andrew Berry, he would not have traded out of that number 2 spot if it wasn't good. You get a second round pick, an extra one, to get Quinshon Judkins, and then you also get a first rounder for next year that could turn into potentially.
What is Jacksonville doing with that? I know it's a new front office. It's a new personnel. But here's the thing. It is, and here's the thing. It's one thing if you traded with the Giants at number 3, because then you wouldn't have needed to give up a whole overhaul. But at the 2, I mean, Travis Hunter is highly athletic and he's very talented. There's no question. But look at some of the gapping holes that are there right there. That's scary to me.
Yeah, I got in an argument with somebody about Carson Schlesinger and Mason Graham, because they were saying Mason Graham wasn't even the best defensive lineman on his team. He wasn't even the best defensive tackle in this draft. And they're like, go back and look at the Texas tape. He gets thrown down to the ground all the time. I'm like, how many TJ Watt's gotten thrown down to the ground by several offensive linemen. And then he's like, Carson Schlesinger was ranked as the 71st best player in this draft, and you could have gotten him later in the 3rd round. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
But you know what, though? And this is precisely because I was on your side with this, because precisely when that ended up going on, it's like, did we not watch both Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant literally be brute forces up and on the fronts when stopping the run? Like, did we not just watch that from Michigan in the last 2 years? The other thing is, with Carson Schlesinger,
Berry, horrible at drafting linebackers and defensive tackles. Like, can you name, outside of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, a linebacker that Andrew Berry has drafted that has been successful? I can't name a single one. And I also cannot name a defensive tackle that has been successful since Andrew Berry has taken over. This was a very big need because we got torched by all the run game last year. Yeah. And we did not have a linebacker that could fill in for JOK when he got his neck injury.
You kept your corners, and that's the other thing is that you even added up amongst that. So that's why I'm like, I don't get it. And again, this is why that, when we talk about roster construction, because I look at both the free agency, the draft, and their personnel, and whether or not that this is going to work. Because, I mean, Chicago improved. Cleveland is rebounding. I think also
Kevin likes the run game. You know what he did?
I thought all 4 teams in the AFC West had a great draft. Even because the Raiders, again, we know Pete Carroll works in the trenches. So why not Ashton Ginty? You have Geno Smith for 2 years.
You pick up 3 offensive linemen in the draft too.
Yes, and they can go and find their quarterback next year. So I had no problem with this. And like I said, in play action plays, Geno Smith holds 107 quarterback rating because it's all about throwing 35 times or less, and it's feeding the ball. It's working within the trenches. So yeah, we'll talk a lot about that. But yeah, I was very impressed with how the draft was.
I love the draft that we had. I mean, Harold Fannin Jr. Kevin likes running that 2 tight end set. He likes having the power backs and the elusive back, and he likes to run the dual running back set as well. And getting back to his offense and the ground and pound and the run first and everything done pass second. He loves doing that, and I'm glad that we're going back to his offense that we're running this year.
No, I agree. So tomorrow night is going to be a fun night for my wife and I, only because we're going to years. And the only way, and you know what, because it always provides me with the best deals, even amongst a crazy economy that we always are dealing with every single day. But SeatGeek always has your back on the best deals at the most affordable price. I mean, I've never been in the Ogden before, so this is the first time, but I've heard some great things about the venue. A friend of mine told me if you get there early on, there's an upstairs spot, and it's closest to all the concessions, and it's a fun area. But wherever you may be, whether it's your repping for your favorite team, because we know Major League Baseball, I mean, I'll be talking a little bit about the Rockies because it got cheaper on tickets. But, however, your favorite sports team and your favorite house, wherever you go to see your sports team, your favorite artist that you follow at your favorite concert venue, comedy shows, I love those, art shows, art galleries, all of those, whatever hits your interest, SeatGeek has you covered from there. And when you guys download the app on Google Play and the App Store, or go online, please use promo code SNAKESPORTS as my gift to you for $20 off of your first purchase of your first ticket, because I want you guys to experience what SeatGeek is about. $20 off. I mean, that's literally enough to get you to save up, to get you either a beer or concession food, whatever it may be. But that's my treat to you. Go online to SeatGeek.com. SeatGeek, your trustworthy ticketing app that nobody on any other ticketing platform can compete with. Check it out. SeatGeek.com. Download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket, and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com, and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Snake Sports Talk Show is sponsored by Muscle Tech, with hundreds of supplements and vitamins to choose from, all packed with 100% all-natural proven ingredients. You can be sure that Muscle Tech will give you the edge and the boost to train and look like your fit and healthy best, whatever your goals are. Try Muscle Tech today and use promo code SNAKESPORTS to save 30% off your purchases.
Back here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. By the way, celebrated a little achievement this week. We've officially hit 1,300 followers on TikTok. Man, do they just love us there. They love everything that we put out there as far as takes and so much more. So Nico Imalava, I know we talked about him in the last couple of days, especially considering the situation that he's about to face being in the Big Ten and being in UCLA. So again, I've even said this yesterday when I was talking briefly about Shedeur Sanders and with him falling into the 5th round to the Cleveland Browns. I still think he's has a better upbringing. He's clearly the steal of the draft because as a first-round talented quarterback who falls all the way down to 5th round is just unheard of. But a lot of people, they don't like his character. They don't like how he kind of, carries himself as far as being bigger than the organization, and then a part of, his dad, Dion, is one of the other biggest things. But I've said it before, and I've said it again. When you're a parent, at the end of the day, you want your kids to blaze their own trails at the end of the day because they're going to grow up. They're going to, they're going to go through adulthood at some point in their lives. But at the same time, you're trying to gear them to provide the tools, the support, and at the same time, the knowledge in order for them to understand real life situations and grow and thrive. Maybe it's preparing for a career. Maybe it's preparing for a future marriage with their special someone. Whatever it may be, you're preparing them for successes. It's not coddling unless you're the kind that just like they've been grown in wealth. They've been wealthy and then they have this quote unquote entitlement, because there are parents like that out there. I'm not going to scrutinize parents, but at the same time, you just got to teach your kids better. I won't tell you how to parent because at the end of the day, your upbringing's your upbringing. I don't care about that. But kids will figure out who they really, really are when they put themselves to the test. So I looked at this, and Nico is going to definitely figure out the situation that he's going to be in. So UCLA in the Big Ten, I pulled up their schedule, and Chase and I were looking at this. I apologize for my listeners, my audience there on my radio, but I looked at this, and I looked at this very briefly. So this is the schedule. They're at home against Utah, on the road to UNLV, at home in New Mexico. It's back and forth, home, road, home, road, home, road. They are literally traveling every week. And the teams that consist of Utah, UNLV with Dan Mullen, Northwestern, Penn State, Michigan State, Maryland, Indiana, Nebraska, Ohio State, Washington, and USC. So I'm going to give this to you. Okay. They added Nico, but what did they really truthfully add to the rest of that roster? Barely anything. You know what I see with this roster, or with what I see with the schedule? I see this potentially being a 3-4 win season. I do. You really think you're going to go like Nico last time that he played Ohio State in Columbus? Yeah, how did that turn out in the playoffs? Really bad. Okay, so, and especially you had a near talented Tennessee roster. You now are playing on a UCLA roster. And you know what I think? I think it's going to honestly look like Georgia, like roadhousing TCU in the national championship. That's what that's going to look like when you're playing Ohio State in Columbus. You're not winning that battle. Not to mention, you've got Penn State coming into town. Okay, you ain't playing in Happy Valley, and thank God for that. But they're coming into town, and they're very physical. They're playing with a purpose. You're going to figure this out, how quickly you're going to honestly go through these waves in the Big Ten, because the Big Ten is very physical. Okay, so you have that. And then I go to Tennessee in the SEC, and I look at their schedule. If Nico was on this roster still, look at this schedule. That looks more favorable than anything else. It does. I mean, you're at home on a 4-game stretch in Knoxville, and you're playing Syracuse, East Tennessee State, Georgia, and UAB. You're probably going to go 3-1 because knowing Georgia, They are kind of rolling the dice with Gunnar Stockton, but Tennessee's got receivers. So this schedule, to me, Syracuse win, East Tennessee State win, Georgia roll the dice up at home in Knoxville, probably could be a loss. UAB win, on the road to Mississippi State win, Arkansas win at home. You're playing Alabama in Tuscaloosa. That probably will be a loss. So you got 2 losses there. And then you're probably going to win through the stretches of Kentucky, Oklahoma, New Mexico State, Florida, and Vanderbilt. You know what? That would have been a playoff team at 10-2 if you just stayed in Tennessee. You were traded a 10-2 schedule for a 3-9, 4-8 schedule. Man, you're going to figure this out very quickly with Nico. Listen, I'm not trying to bash the kid, and I'm not trying to bash UCLA, but you leave the SEC, which is very talented, can get physical, but there's opportunities for growth because of where you play in your conference. You trade that to go to the Big Ten, where you are by far the lowest of the low amongst Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. You're not built for that. I mean, USC is learning about that. When was the last time USC ever got physical on the defense? We know Lincoln Riley, respectfully, is an offensive genius, but even that's not saving you. I'm telling you, I think this is bad. But I'm not going to bash it on the kid respectfully, because I hope he comes out of this learning about his decision. You walked in there to Josh Heupel in Knoxville asking for $4 million, and you threatened to sit yourself in that game at Columbus. And the program was like, you're not above the program. Go on, kick rocks. And then you settle for a pay cut of $1.75 million. And you're going to get your ass kicked in the Big Ten. I'm just saying, kids have to learn that these days. You're not above the program. Shedeur had to learn you're not above the organization. That's why you dropped to the 5th round and went to the Cleveland Browns, but you're in a better situation. So take advantage of that. Don't take that for granted. Learn it, get better at it. But remember, Nico only has 1 year away from the SEC until he's eligible to potentially transfer and go back again. He's not going to go back to Knoxville. Knoxville already kicked him to the curb. So I'm just saying, never take for granted what was bestowed right there up in front of you. Chasing the news.
This is the Hot Press.
That schedule not look brutal for UCLA. Go into Columbus to play.
And get their ass kicked.
Oh my God!
They are going to get their ass kicked, and I love it. I'm excited for it.
State.
I cannot wait.
I mean, this is the thing. You're lucky you're not in Happy Valley. Otherwise, that would have been just absolutely brutal than normal.
Dude,
but you got them coming into town to UCLA. And what? For ticket sales? That's it?
This is truly going to be a college football season to remember, with Arch Manning playing Ohio State the very first game of the season, and then Drew Aller coming back for another season for his senior year, and him getting better at quarterback. As long as he has the offensive weapons, that would be the team I would be scared of. As
that is the thing, because what has been the question with Penn State? Are they ever going to get over the top receivers? That has been kind of the problem with them. I mean, Tyler Warren, we know he's gone, but they will find the tight end. They got a run game. You got your quarterback, and your defense is never falling flat. So the thing is that James Franklin, I understand the agenda, but at the same time, why not just get one talented over the top receiver?
Yeah.
They got to use
That's their
one.
problem. That is their only issue, is they are missing some good playmakers.
Yes.
And I feel like if they had like 1 or 2 good wide receivers last year, other than Tyler Warren, they would have won. They would have won
the Natty.
I don't know if they would have won the Natty. But they would have beaten Notre Dame for sure.
They definitely would have beaten Notre Dame. Now, as talented as Ohio State would, again, I say this. I think Ohio State clearly was talented. They were the ones that you knew coming in with a hot hand that they were going to win the Natty. But Penn State has the potential to follow the upbringing of what Ohio State and Michigan did in these past 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, they could be the one in the Big Ten to win it this year.
That's right.
If they've got the offensive firepower. I mean,
well,
that
forget
is the
that. I mean,
only
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Forget the conference championship at the end of the day, because that's what Ohio State did. Ohio State's like, okay, Oregon will win the Big Ten, but you know what? We're just going to basically demolish them on the road, okay, in the Rose Bowl, and we're going to remind them, like, hey.
Now you got Dante Moore.
Yeah,
you got Dante Moore that has to take over. Like, Jesus Christ.
I mean, Oregon, look, they're going to figure that out, but at the same time, I mean, you got to kind of get away from the Pac-12 thing, even though it's good to possess that, but you're in the Big Ten now. You got to get physical. You got to get in their face. So,
yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Another heartbreaking piece of news that I got today, and it's looking more and more like it's going to happen. You're going to have Nick Chubb signing with an NFC team probably in the next couple days.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that is the Chicago Bears. I am devastated that he is not going to be on Cleveland anymore, but I hope he goes back and he proves to everybody that he can still play. He wants to come back to Cleveland. He has said time and time again that he has embraced the city, and he has shown nothing but passion and gratitude for Cleveland for re-signing him after his gruesome knee injury, because he's just like, they could have kicked me to the curb, they could have left me out to die, and they didn't. They brought me back, and that shows a lot of heart and character. He's been wanting to come back to this team for so long, and it's just a matter of if Andrew Berry can work out a deal to bring him back. I mean, that there's still hope, but who knows? But that is the latest piece of news I have for Nick Chubb and everything.
Well, the good news is he is going to be a part of a rotation in Chicago, and Chicago improved their offensive line. So he's not going to be completely left stranded on an island. I think Ben Johnson, I mean, he's trying to incorporate the same deal he did in Detroit with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. But is DeAndre Swift truthfully the answer to that? Or you got Roschon Johnson. So Chicago, they did a lot of things right. It took me a minute to figure out that Colston Loveland pick, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, I see what Ben Johnson's doing. Dual tight end set. You get another weapon with Luther Burden, and you fix up the offensive line even more. I mean, defensively, they're not really truthfully lacking a lot of things up on defense. I think they got better with that. But again, I have to see now the consistency in the first couple of weeks, because then that's when I will have the argument Chicago is definitely built up for the future.
Yeah, I think so. And moving on to the MLB aspect of things, we are starting to see a resurgence of MLB viewership. And you know why?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know why?
There's a multitude of things.
The main reason why is because offense has become more prevalent than defense. We have seen more and more home runs, doubles, base hits, stolen bases, walks, whatever it may be. We have seen a lot more offense, and that is drawing people in because you've got these high-scoring games that are like 11-4, 15-8, 23-3, and you're seeing like multiple home run games, grand slams. You're seeing that more and more. And we are going away from the era of where dominant pitching from like the mid 2000s to about 2020 when the pandemic hit. That was when pitching was at its finest, and you are starting to see a downhill slide of starting pitching, becoming bad. And it's, a lot of it has to do with pitchers and this pitch clock. And I'm bringing it back to the pitch clock because a lot of them had to change up their delivery motion, the way that they're pitching because of the
workouts,
higher risk of Tommy John.
Yeah. And this is the thing. Pitch clock, shorten up the situations, like when you get past the ninth inning, you got that ghost runner up at second. Offensively, it's getting a lot better. By the way, pitching has also been very, very well as well. It hasn't really.
It has not. It actually has gone down. Pitching has. ERAs have skyrocketed. Pitchers aren't lasting as long as they did.
It depends who you are. It depends on who you are, because did you look at Detroit's starting rotation? They're all in the sub threes right now. That's very good. And so again, it does depend on your rotation in your organization, because a lot of others, they're going to struggle at it. I mean, take, for instance, the Colorado Rockies, who only won 4 games, but it's a hitter's ballpark. So you're going to have that, but people do love offense. But at the same time, I think people love the time situation, because of the fact of, like I said, it used to take about 3.5 hours, possibly 4, for a game to end. And I'm there on a Tuesday night. I got work in the morning, but it shaved it down to where I think the shortest one we've seen in Major League Baseball record is 2 hours. That's perfect for me. I got plenty of time where I got a lot of baseball. I got beer. I got food. I got the whole entertainment, and I'm right there, and I'm watching the sunsets in Coors Field. So I got everything within 2 hours. I like that, but that's why the viewerships. It's interesting, but what's another case is too. I think it's because we got the stars in the right places. That's the other reason. Shohei in Los Angeles, Bryce Harper in Philadelphia. You got the scrappy Atlanta Braves, and you got a couple of other teams, and the Cleveland Guardians, who are interesting in the Central. So you have a plethora of all of that, and all it takes is for the small markets to get with the program. Enough of this salary cap spiel, because that's doing you nothing. It's doing you nothing but making the rich richer with your ownership. That's all it's doing.
Yeah, and if it's true that in the next couple of years, Rob Manfred's going to step in and actually do something about it with the small market teams and everything and their ownership, and forcing them to either make moves or sell the team, I am looking forward to that, because it is always the same teams every year that are always at the bottom of the league. The A's, the Pirates, the Rockies. You will never believe what Dan Montfort literally said on an interview when it came to the state of the Rockies. I'll put that out there a little bit later on when we got a chance to close out the show, because you are going to be shocked. He's at it again. I will. But I and the Rays, I honestly hope that there's something that Rob Manfred can do about these, because the Rockies haven't been relevant since 2007. The Rays went downhill ever since they got rid of Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell, and then you had the Pirates. They got Paul Skeens, they got Brian Reynolds, they got O'Neal Cruz, but you don't have a good manager. You don't have any other top tier players that are there. Your starting rotation only consists of Paul Skeens, and that's it. You don't have a good bullpen. You don't have a good rotation top to bottom, or not even on the middle of the lineup. You got 2 hitters and a pitcher, and that's all you're looking forward to. Come on, make some moves. Make something happen.
No, I agree.
To round out the news that I've got, I have heard from a lot of people around the Cleveland area that they really, really like Dillon Gabriel. There has been a lot of talk that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski went to a private workout with him the same days that they met with Shador, Abdul Carter, and Travis Hunter. They flew out to Oregon to see the pro day of Dillon Gabriel, and then they had a private workout, and they let it not a single thing slip out. And there is a very high likely chance that he could start week 1 over Joe Flacco and over Shador Sanders, and Joe would be the QB2.
Oh, good Lord. Look, I'm not ruling out Shador Sanders on this, because again, I just think there was the humility part, and I spoke about this yesterday, because at the end of the day, everyone's opinion on this, when they kept pushing out the hidden agenda, that's garbage. I already put them all up on blast. I'm if you're watching First Take as your first go-to show in the morning, turn your TV off, because this is the problem. Everyone has been so overreactive over the Shador Sanders thing. But to me, they're talking more about the Shador Sanders, the person. They're not talking about Shador Sanders, the quarterback. That's the problem. So again, I have nothing against Dillon Gabriel, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think to me, he's a very accurate quarterback, but I've not really seen him with his deep ball accuracy as consistent as I thought I would have. I mean, I watched his tapes in UCF and in Oklahoma and in Oregon. I didn't really see a whole lot of that, but that's the part that Shedeur, I do think, has that over Dillon Gabriel because of his finesse touch where he can throw it over the shoulder. I've seen it several times because when he's on, he can do it. They're both very accurate quarterbacks, but I think this is just going to be interesting to watch the quarterback situation. I
encourage you to go back and watch Dillon Gabriel's deep ball. It is actually more accurate than you think it is. And this dude threw 5 interceptions in so many games, and he threw 56 touchdown passes last year. I mean, like I did not like the pick, but like I started watching a little bit more film on him, started doing a little bit more research on him, and looking at him, I'm like,
well, you got to remember,
if he sits, he could actually be good.
Well, you got to remember, the game is faster, and it is different because you really have to change the timing of what you're used to. Because college football, I mean, you only have a certain window of time, whereas in the NFL, you got to make quick decisions. That's why we harp about that with Caleb Williams. You can't hold on to the ball for too long, and neither can you lean into the spectacular, because at the end of the day, what good is that going to do for you? Throw the ball away, or even just make quicker decisions. Get some guys to crash in on slant routes or in routes and get the ball out quickly. That's why I love the decision making that Jaden Daniels does, because when you add Debo to that mix, oh man, I cannot wait for that combo right there. That's going to look so nice.
And one thing I've noticed with Dillon Gabriel, like another thing I like is, he's got more experience. A lot of the quarterbacks that have had experience, like Michael Penix, had the experience because he played so many years. Justin Herbert went back for his senior year. He had the experience. And a lot of the things that Dillon Gabriel also has is he played against top tier competition. A lot of the guys that are like on the top tier teams are going to be the NFL caliber guys that he's going to go up against. And like everybody's just like, well, he's 5'11". Kyler Murray's 5'10". Bryce Young is 5'10". Russell Wilson's 5'10". Like 5'11" is not that big a deal in this day and age with the NFL.
Well, depends on the scheme. Because again, you could be having Kyler
the play action and bootleg with Kevin Stefanski's system works well.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it usually does depend on the scheme fits, because here's the deal. If we're talking amongst lefty quarterbacks to wrap this up, but Michael Penix, I mean, the kid is unbelievable. And you already knew that was an NFL caliber quarterback right off the bat, just from his pocket awareness, and really just his ability to just have that accuracy and touch. Like the football is already coming out accurate out of his arm. Like it's already looking like that. Kyler Murray, I mean, the deal with him is that he's so athletic that he can run out of certain spaces, and he has the capability to plant and throw. With Dillon Gabriel, the thing I looked at with him is that I do believe that will be a challenge, not only just with the size, the timing, and I mean, you have to think too. You're in a division where what's the one thing that they've all got in common? Great defenses. That is going to be the challenge right there. Because if you could outsmart a great defense like Baltimore's or Pittsburgh's, that's pretty impressive. But you gotta think, man, that if I look, we got the schedule released in May 14th. So I have to see what that schedule looks like in order for me to determine a team's record. Because that there alone will just tell you who is your top defenses you're facing all throughout that schedule, whether it's in or out of your division. So that is going to be the watch this upcoming season, is that quarterback room, because I just think Shedeur, he's going to learn a lot from just being in this position. But if Dillon Gabriel really does come out of the other side of this thing with what Kevin Stefanski's got, that is going to be really interesting to watch.
Yeah.
All right.
What did the Rockies owner say?
All right. Well, here's what he said.
This is the hot press.
So So when I looked at this, so it was in regards to the state of the Rockies themselves. So what was said about this is, again, the Rockies right now, they're obviously a laughing stock. They're 20 games below 500, and by the way, they're 4-24, and that the Mile High Nine are off to the single worst start in the 149 years history of the National League. That's insane. And so what Dick Montfort came out last week and said, since 1995, I've been at nearly 95% of the games played at Coors Field. Of all those thousands of games, my fondest memories are of a sold-out ballpark on an 85-degree day with no humidity, a beautiful sunset, 50,000 men, women, kids soaking in the timeless magic of iconic Coors Field while watching your team get roadhoused week in, week out. You know what's causing a lot of those sold-out crowds? The Dodger fans coming into town, the Braves fans coming into town, hell, the Yankees, Mets fans coming into town. Like, are you kidding me with this? Like, this is why. But you wonder why. And look, I live here in Colorado, and I heard it from everybody in the entire colorful state of Colorado. They all can't stand Dick Montfort.
The Waltons need to buy the Rockies as well.
The Waltons. Can the Cronkies pay for it? Please, like, this is outrageous. And
can you imagine the Waltons buying the Rockies? They'll actually spend the money to get players there,
and they would be 10 times better. Like, this is the thing. The Rockies, like you pointed out, since 2007, what have they truthfully done? I mean, this organization's been around since 93, and yet we've had Andres Galarraga, Vinny Castilla, Todd Helton, and Larry Walker, and they ain't done a damn thing.
Troy Tulowitzki,
Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story.
Trevor Story.
Yeah, and this is the
now
thing.
You got Ezekiel Tovar, who's like the best guy on the team.
Oh, it gets even better. I mean, the Rockies are the A's without the championships. That's who they are. They give up a lot of these players. They give up a lot of these players because they quote unquote can't afford them. But you know what's the icing on the cake is that they've moved on from all these players. Now, luckily, the Nolan Arenado situation in St. Louis, I mean, the Cardinals are kind of going through a funk of their own. But at the same time, I mean, all these other players, I mean, Cargo, I mean, all these players that they've moved on from, and the icing on the cake to this was, you had a talented left-handed bat in Nolan Jones and you trade him to Cleveland. What are you doing? Like, this makes no sense to me. And for what? To continuously pay for Chris Bryant's contract? That's doing you nothing but just headaches?
You know how many people actually wanted to, like, how many players actually wanted to go to Colorado, but they can't because the owners are too cheap. Zach Wheeler wanted to go there.
Wow.
Freaking Aaron Nola wanted to go there. Blake Snell wanted to go there. And you know what kind of power bats wanted to go there?
Oh,
Pete Alonso wanted to go there.
A lot of them. Well, why not?
A lot of them wanted to go there.
Of course they did.
The reason why is because they like the Colorado scenery. They like the mountains and everything. And they love or they want to bring a championship to that city. However, they were not willing to pay the contracts of those players. Can you imagine having Blake Snell, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Pete Alonso? Like, dude, like a rotation like that? Oh my gosh.
With a lineup that they would have already have constructed in the last 20 years. I mean, think about it.
Charlie Condon's gonna come up, play his 5 years, and then
Charlie
leave.
Condon is just gonna be another Nolan Arenado. And the kid is talented. I mean, I watched this kid in Georgia, and I'm like, 37 home runs a year, maybe more. I think he might crack. I mean, he might even have a Pete Alonso season, but with a better average. But all I know is that, like, look, Colorado's such a beautiful state. It really is. From all over the entire scenery, like, you go into, when you enter in Colorado, you know what it says on the sign? It says, "Welcome to colorful Colorado," because it's so colorful out there. You got trees, you got lakes, you got mountains, you got snow, you got everything of what life literally is. But yet, we're in constant purgatory outside of the Nuggets, the Broncos, the Avs, hell, even Colorado. And what are the Rockies doing? And at the same time, Dick Montfort, I mean, this is why I said, when you're so insular and it's a family-ran business, this is what you turn into. I give credit to Jerry Jones, what he did in the draft. And that just tells me they're not going so insular anymore. I mean, good God.
The Cowboys had a great draft.
They had a great draft. I mean, that was insanity. But I'm telling you, this was outrageous. I couldn't believe my own eyes. It's like he always has something to say just to piss off all the Rocky fans. Just always something to say, because he's like, well, it's not fair that we can't compete with this markets. Yes, you can. Go ask the Cincinnati Bengals how they paid for contracts. They tapped into the shareholders' money. And you kind of got to do that. If you feel like you can't spend your own personal money, then tap into the shareholders. That's what they're there for.
And if you want the Dodgers to not be that good, quit letting them buy the players. Spend some money to get them to your team.
Right. Colorado, Pittsburgh, Washington. Like, it's not rocket science. You know what I mean? We've been talking about this thing for so long, and it's not rocket science. But
Juan Soto even wanted to go to Colorado, but they couldn't afford him.
I'm sure every single one of them that went to the All-Star game in Colorado, I'm sure every single one of their players loved that atmosphere.
Dude, there was at least like, I'd say about 10 players on that All-Star team. 5 pitchers and 5 position players wanted to go to Colorado.
Yeah. I don't doubt it. And it's a hitters friendly ballpark. And you got the altitude on your side. So I don't know. And I mean, I've been hearing it from every born and bred Coloradan out here, and they do not, I repeat, they do not throw their money at the Montfort family. They don't.
They just boycott the team and never show up to a game until he
seriously. That's the one thing I guarantee you that happens, man. You're gonna see a drastic change. But again, look, I'm not a political guy, but I know what Colorado is standing on, and I don't doubt this at all.
If I had Jeff Bezos type of money, I would buy the Rockies.
Oh, so would I. I'd be a freaking share. Like, again, you give me 50% shares, I guarantee you we're going to make this team a winning team, because that's what everybody wants to see. The Avs, the Nuggets, I mean, the Broncos, they all know what it means to win. And by the way,
my first step is firing their manager for the Rockies. Fire the manager.
Yeah.
And then bring in at least
truthfully, if you were to make
3 starting pitchers and 3 bullpen pitchers.
I mean, if you were to make Clint Hurdle the manager again, I don't oppose that. He's their hitting coach now, so I don't oppose Clint Hurdle being the manager again. I've seen what he did in Pittsburgh. I'm not counting that out. Sometimes that does happen. Bud Black had this upbringing when he was with the Padres and then goes to Colorado. So I'm not opposed to Clint Hurdle taking over the team, but
I would try to get Craig Counsell away from Chicago.
Oh, good luck. I mean,
if I have I'm throwing a contract at him, bro.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. I got Kyle Tucker. I've got Pete Crow Armstrong. I've got so many good players. Why would I want to leave that?
Dude, if I had that kind of money, you realize if I can throw that money at Craig Counsell and I can throw that money in there to buy the Rockies, I'm throwing that money out there and I'm buying every single free agent that I can to bring this team up. Like I'm like, let's go. We're like Aaron Nola, sure, let's go. You want Juan Soto, cool. Like here's $800 million. Let's go. You want freaking Francisco Lindor, we'll bring him in too.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, it's that time, and I know a lot of people, I got pushbacks for this. But again, I had to explain it to everybody because it feels like I got to be the teacher in the room. I feel like I have been. But my top 10 teams, I did it based upon free agency, roster construction, coaching personnel, their front offices. I did it on the plethoras of all of this. So again, and these are going to be interchangeable, folks. I hope you heard that right, because when the season starts up, this could be interchangeable every week. So without further ado, I looked into this very deeply, and this is what I came up with my top 10 NFL teams. Here we go.
Number 10.
Right. So my top 10, starting up at number 10. I know lots of people are probably going to be overly reacting up to this, but I am putting the Cincinnati Bengals on this top 10. And the only reason why is because what did they do so good last year? They were very good on offense. Unfortunately, the defense did them no justice, but what did they do come free agency and in the draft? Okay, the contract situation with Trey Hendrickson, they're going to fix that, okay? They're going to get a deal done. But you pair him with Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher from Texas A&M, you're going to get a very, very good defensive front. B.J. Hill is re-signed. They also got Taj Brooks, the running back, to pair up with Chase Brown. I like with what the Bengals are doing because now this is support for you to be a competitive roster and a team that I think can be able to get over that hump. I put Cincinnati up at 10. I know people were thinking, where are the Lions? Where are the Bears? Where are all these teams? I will tell you what my honorable 5 are right after this, but I got the Bengals at 10.
Number 9.
Right for me to put this team up there, but I thought the Denver Broncos had such a great draft. RJ Harvey, the running back, and then not to mention Johnny Barron with their very first pick, on top of getting Tali Noa-Ofunga. And look, Dre Greenlaw is going to miss some time, but it's not as significant as the newsletters are making it out to be. This Denver Broncos team vastly improved last year with rookie quarterback Bo Nix going into his second year. They got another weapon in Pat Bryant, who I really do like. But I thought corner, running back, wide receiver, these are all the makings of what Sean Payton puts together. I love with what they've done. And another fellow AFC West team also did very good in the draft. I had the Broncos up at 8, and here is 8. I got the Broncos at 9. Here's number 8.
Number 8.
Chargers with Jim Harbaugh and what he's doing right now, absolutely solidified the backfield with both Amarian Hampton and Najee Harris. And then, by the way, did you hear what they did today? They also rarely tendered J.K. Dobbins with the potentiality he could come back. Now, here's the deal. If he does sign the contract, he'll be playing 1 year with a $3.4 million contract. Or if he signs with another team, you know what the Chargers get? They get a compensatory pick off that signing. Is that not the smartest thing Joe Ortiz can do? And on top of that, look at the undrafted free agent they picked up. They got Rocket Sanders. I mean, that kid, this running back room is going to be scary good. But they got the offensive line. I think they got a poor man's Colston Loveland and Aronde Gadsden. And they also went and got a couple of other really good players. Mekhi Becton. this Chargers team is for real, man. And I honestly do think because of both
Trey Harris.
They got Trey Harris, but they also got Keandre. They got Keandre Lambert Smith from Auburn, who originally was at Penn State before he transferred. So
I love that Trey Harris pick. That's a great pick.
I love the pick too. And by the way, they haven't ruled out the Keenan Allen thing, so it's still on the table. So again, so many things can happen, but I think these are two really good contenders that can compete in the AFC West. Here's my number 7 team now.
Number 7.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look, I thought about this for a while, and the thing about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what are they doing? They're getting younger at defense. They got Benjamin Morrison. They got a couple of other really good players up on defense, and not to mention they got a wide receiver with Emeka Egbuka. And then they also got Will Shepard off as undrafted free agent, and they got Tez Johnson. The point of this is because Baker is unloaded, okay? Baker's going to bake, okay? Last year, he put up nearly MVP numbers, but Bucky Irving was also a great rare find last year in the 5th round, and what you're seeing from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I don't know with what Todd Bowles, how he's going to shape up this team, but I love with what the Buccaneers did as far as addressing depth, and at the same time, look at who's paired up with Vita Vea. That has got to be the heaviest defensive front I've seen with Desmond Watson there. That is going to be a show to watch from there. So I'm excited about Tampa Bay this upcoming season.
Number 6.
Kind of thought I was reaching at this. I don't care, but I got the Green Bay Packers at 6. What did we learn about them last year? They improved on the trenches. They got Josh Jacobs. Now, yes, they lose A.J. Dillon, but at the same time, they'll get running backs. But here's the other thing. Jordan Love now has a really good receiver, and he's got another one. So to me, this offense, and more importantly, with what Matt LaFleur has put together, is ensuring Jordan Love works and that they rebound on the offensive side. I know the Packers, they did not look as good last year, but I think it's because you had to get that year out of your system. And now that they got younger up on defense, they got a couple of other really good pieces that I like, and they're bringing back some existing ones. The Packers, I love how well ran this front office is. They're patient. They're not worried. They don't really make desperate moves. They take the best players available that is there. But I got to say, that's got to sting for Aaron Rodgers after 17 years, and they finally take a first-round receiver, Matthew Golden. That's kind of messed up, man.
Number 5.
To me is the team that vastly improved, and that's the Washington Commanders for a few reasons. Because number one, you got a left tackle now in Josh Connerly that is going to protect Jaden
right tackle. Tunsil's their left tackle.
Yeah, so you got a left tackle, you got a right tackle. The tackles are solidified now. And again, Tunsil is still a good left tackle. I do think that there's going to be a part of it, age is going to come up. But here's the other thing. Sam Cosmi's back. So this offensive line vastly improved from last year. They vastly improved. So, because again, I told everybody before Jaden Daniels got there, this was the last ranked offensive line. It was horrible. So they got through that. They get Deebo Samuel. They go and address defense on a few spots. So I like with what the Washington Commanders have done, and I put them there up at number 5.
Number 4.
And they continue to impress me every single time, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. Here's my deal with this.
Malachi freaking Starks and Mike
Green. This front office just knows how to pick the players. And listen,
can they ever draft bust for once? Come on, dude.
They don't, but this is why a lot of these well-respected organizations, they have a knack for talent. So Baltimore, I know when I tell you a lot of people that bashed me on the Baltimore Ravens being number 3 or number 4, they were not that terrible. In fact, playoff game, the playoff game against the Buffalo Bills was only a 2-point game. How could that be horrible? The Ravens did everything right. And it's because what? They got DeAndre Hopkins. Get over it. Like, so what? That's not the reason of the Ravens. The Ravens have a great personnel. They've extended John Harbaugh. And at the same time, you got another year of Derrick Henry. So that pair between him and Lamar Jackson is still going to be there. And the Ravens, I love with what they're doing. And man, did they get some steals on defense. And on top of Nate Wiggins being there in his second year and improving.
Number 3.
Put the Kansas City Chiefs up here. Listen, I know a lot of people don't like how much that the Kansas City Chiefs continue to linger on, but how can I bash this front office? Brett Veach, I mean, they got Josh Simmons. They got a tackle. They needed some help. But the other thing is they also got a bunch of steals from the late rounds and from the undrafted free agents. So to me, I think the Chiefs, they did the right thing.
Big Brighamstool, the tight end from Clemson, was a shocker. That's
really
a great
nice.
pickup.
Really nice, wasn't he? It was a very good piece. So Kansas City is not going away for quite a while if you got this front office from here. So again, I know they're probably going to take a hit because of what last year gave them. They didn't quite take advantage of the draft last year, but they certainly took advantage of the draft this year. But you'll see the team that trumps them at number 2.
Now, hold on. Don't be shocked if the Chiefs, I've been hearing rumors, and if they get this guy, he is the biggest sleeper, for, like undrafted free agent, because he was projected a late first, early second day pick or second round pick. Yeah. And my goodness, if they can get Isaiah Bond, they would be unstoppable.
With Xavier Worthy, that's insane. That's insane there.
They are
number 2.
Chance and everything. And like this dude got his career ruined before it even started, man. I feel so bad for him.
Yeah, but there are some allegations and all the rest of it, but we'll find out about that later on. But so the Buffalo Bills, to me, I really thought they had a great draft. I mean, they get Maxwell Hairston. They got Jordan Hancock. They went on corners. And I think a lot of this is because we know what the passers that they've got in the AFC. That's why they wanted to solidify the air. So to me, they go and get veteran pieces. I mean, they get Josh Palmer. They get Joey Bosa on the other side. They also got a very, very good edge rusher who I really like to pair him up with Greg Rousseau and a lot of other players up front. So this tells me, and you know what's funny is, did you watch the latest interview on the show in Buffalo? And did you hear what Brandon Beane had to say?
No.
Brandon Beane went off on this radio show, and I thought this was A-grade classic because I guess they were talking about wide receiver and like talented players, and Brandon Beane kind of put him into place. Like they're like, were we not the most hyper-aggressive scoring team last year? Were we not that last year without Stephon Diggs and without Gabe Davis, and yet we still had Josh Allen? Were we not there? That's insane. So to me, I think Buffalo, they vastly improved defensively. I think this has to be the year Buffalo gets over the top. This has to be the year. And then finally, my number 1 team, and you can make a guess.
Number 1.
The number 1 team, it's clear to me, it's the Philadelphia Eagles, until somebody stops them in the tracks. I mean, look, Howie Roseman is by far a genius as a GM. Because you go and get, here's the great part.
A semi-genius.
Well, here's the part. Saquon Barkley, you gave him a pay raise, and for everything that he's done there, not to mention you got A.J. Dillon. That's a very hefty running backfield that you can see from Philadelphia. And then not to mention, we know about the whole tush-push thing, and it's tabled, so we'll see what happens there. But Jahad Campbell fell to the Eagles? I mean, that's insane. And then they go and get a defensive tackle. They go and get a couple of other really good pieces I like. I know people are questionable about the secondary, but if this team gets everything working together, I'm telling you, they are still going to be a threatening force for the next few years. But this is all the makings of what a healthy and a great front office looks like. So there you go. That's my top 10. You notice what all of these teams have in common. I mean, from Howie Roseman to Brandon Beane to Brett Veach, to the Ravens GM, and then Adam Peters, and Brian Gutekunst. All these guys make very good deals. And not to mention, they have a knack for talent in drafts. So, to me, I don't see a problem with this. People bashed me on the Bengals because I'm like, well, what were they last year? They were a hyper-aggressive offensive team, but the defense did no justice. And what did they do? They went and got
They only got 2 defensive players in the draft.
They got 2 defensive players, but it does not take away what they're trying to do. They gotta get into the playoffs. And again, hyper aggressive up on offense. And they got another running back with Taj Brooks. So you pair him up with Chase Brown. That's a very decent running room. Of the 5 teams, this is my thought. So the 5 teams, they're not in order, but I have the Lions there because my only thing about them is I have to see them without all of those coordinators they lost. I have to. In order for me to really see what the Lions are capable of, I know they're talented. I know they've got a healthy run game. I know that they got very good pieces. I'm not bashing on them, but that is a lot. And sometimes that can change for a personnel. I got Chicago that's going up there because Ben Johnson's identity is slowly showing for itself. The Raiders are climbing up there because Pete Carroll, say what you will, he's a very trustworthy head coach. The other thing is like I thought the Patriots had a great draft. I thought they had a great draft with getting Will Campbell, the left tackle. You got protection there for Drake May. You got the Travion Henderson pick I loved because now you got power and speed. You got
Stephon Diggs during the offseason.
Yeah. So this is a great roster. So, and like I said, this is going to be a better team than Pittsburgh. That's why I kept telling everybody. You keep bashing to me like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm telling you, personnel, players, all of that, it all matters. That's why with a lot of these other teams, I don't know what the Lions are going to look like. I don't even have the 49ers ranked up that high because they lost a lot of players, and I don't even know what Brock Purdy's going to look like. I mean, they just re-signed George Kittle, by the way, for 4 years.
One of my favorite UDFAs that the Bengals signed was Seth McLaughlin.
Yes, Seth McLaughlin. They got a center.
The center from Ohio State and Alabama. And the reason why he didn't get drafted is his torn ACL. Had he not had his torn ACL, he probably would have went second.
Oh, he's great. I mean,
fantastic.
But that is the thing. People tell me that why are the Bengals a 10? Because if you see the support, because Joe Burrow again is in those conversations. So when he's asking for support, you better give him some support. Okay? And this is an organization that's been cheap for years. So did you have any problems with this list? We'll show it up one more time for our audience, but I just think I base this off personnel. I base this off the free agency market and the draft. And free agency isn't even closed yet.
I would have put the Cardinals on the list.
Look,
they had a good draft.
They had a great draft. But the thing is,
I do think that Jonathan Gannon has been doing well. If it wasn't for a few games last year in the play of Kyler Murray, I feel like they would have made the playoffs.
Well, they were my best.
Their GM has been drafting a lot better lately, and their GM and front office combined are doing well. So I would have put them on this list.
No, they were very good. Now the thing is that, again, I thought they dressed very well in the draft. I mean, they got Will Johnson. That was a steal. The fact that he fell that far. And the Cardinals just go and snag him up, and then they go and get a couple of other players as well. I think the Cardinals, because the Cardinals were my worst team out of the NFC. They
probably would
vastly
take
improved.
out the Bucks, because like you look at the Bucks and like they like in the first round they went after players that they really didn't need. Same thing with this, like the second round they went after another wide receiver. I'm like, you don't really need wide receivers. You need corners. You need defense.
Well, when they got Benjamin Morrison, I mean they got a corner. So I'm like,
they did.
I
but
like him. But here's the thing: the Bucks defense we know is getting younger. Because, again, you're moving on from Levante David, Shaq Barrett, and Devin White, and a couple of others. You're moving on from those guys. Now, you still do have corners. That's my thing is that the Bucks, they could play competitive. I mean, Baker put up nearly MVP numbers, if you really think about it. You sold the ball, and at the same time, you could never go without weapons. I mean, you never could. But again, it does hold my belief, because that South Division in the NFC got a little interesting.
But when you pass up a guy like Jahdae Barron and you let him fall to the Broncos, dude, who already have Riley Moss and Pat Surtain, holy shit.
Yeah, and on top of it, you've already got a safety group with Brandon Jones and Talanoa Ufunga. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. The Broncos vastly improved in defense. They vastly improved. To me, I think what this is now, and again, this list is interchangeable. That's what I kept telling everybody. It could change every week come the season. But we cannot deny that those teams that I did not have on the top 10s, how many of them can actually crack the top 10? Seriously. I don't know what the Niners could look like. I don't know what the Lions could honestly look like without those coordinators. I don't even know if it could
be even know what the Eagles are going to look like without Kellen Moore.
Yeah. But the Saints, I mean, there are teams out there that, like I said, Chicago's on the uprise. The Raiders are on the uprise. They may not have quite the sexy talent. They got a very good pieces, but maybe they're not quite there yet, but they're building the depth. They're doing exactly what the Chargers did last year. They had to build up for depth. They had to make sure that they were prepared for the trench game, and they got some pretty impressive pieces. I'm excited to see what Ashton Ginty looks like in this run game.
Now, before we end the show, we'll end it on this. The New Orleans Saints and the New York Jets will have the number 1 and number 2 picks in the draft next year.
God, I love the fact that you are on the same page as me. Seriously. I'm not even joking, because here's the deal. When I look at Jacksonville, and I don't know what's up with this, but I have been hearing Jacksonville fans left and right. And it's giving me a migraine. But here's the deal. I'm not bashing on Jags fans, okay? I'm not. But what makes you think that you'll improve, but you think that Travis Hunter is going to be your be-all, end-all that's going to get you over the top after you just gave up a first-round draft pick next year to Cleveland? These are the kind of moves that make you a top 10 pick every year.
Not to mention, you did not pick up a tight end, and I don't even think you got one in free agency, which Trevor Lawrence likes throwing to the tight end. You've got Brian Thomas Jr. and you got Travis Hunter. Those are your only 2 offensive weapons, because you got rid of Christian Kirk. You got rid of a couple others.
Yep.
And then you beefed up your O-line a little bit. That's fantastic. But, you don't know if Travis Etienne is going to be healthy and everything. And you don't know what Tank Bigsby is going to do. And you have no idea, not a damn clue, how Liam Cohen and his coaching staff, his defensive coordinator, his offensive play style are going to play into effect. For all we know, they could have a top 10 pick next year, and I will be happy, because that means that the Browns can get Caleb Downs.
Yeah, it not a clue at all of what this team.
But I do think that Kellen Moore is going to have a long leash, because they're going to start building that roster younger. They're starting with the offensive line, and now they've got Calvin Banks as their left tackle, while they have Talise Fuaga as their right tackle and Peter Skoronski as their left guard.
Which I like that. I like that.
I like that too. And then you got Devin Neal late in the rounds, because if you want to move on from Kamara and get out from underneath that contract. You got Tyler Shuck, who may not be a starting caliber quarterback. But like if you want to move off of Derek Carr or he can't play, you can play him. But I don't think that, you got an aging defense, didn't really get any defensive pieces to help you out. You started building the offensive side of the ball a little bit. But like I don't see the Saints, having success when the Falcons got better a lot. The Bucks got tremendously better. And the Panthers got even better. And now you go to the Jets division. Dolphins are going to be great. Bills are going to be top tier. Patriots got their team a lot better.
Well,
and who knows how Justin Fields going to play?
I'm a little on the fences about Miami for a few reasons. And the only reason of it is because, again, I'm not hating the Kenneth Grant pick. I love that pick. But the deal is you just lost Teron Armstead. You lost an important piece on the offensive line. And at the same time, they got a knack for speed, but how long does that get you? And at the same time, they took Quinn Ewers in the very late round. And look, I don't even know if he can translate in the NFL. Texas quarterbacks, and hopefully we could see this different upbringing with Arch Manning, and I think we will. I think the last time when I seen this was when Colt McCoy was quarterback. Because before him, you had Vince Young. But when you watched Garrett Gilbert, you watched Sam Ehlinger, Quinn Ewers, what did they all have in common? It's a Texas thing. They all love gunslinger quarterbacks, which that's cool and all, but that kind of stuff is only what's going to lead you for failure in the NFL. Go ask Josh Allen what that felt like when he came out of Wyoming and he was raw, not a whole lot of control until Brian Dable came around the corner. That's why I understand with the Jackson Dart pick, because Jackson Dart is talented. He's got the knack of the arm for it, but it's a lot of the little stuff they got to tweak. And I think Brian Dable, he's going to be good. He'll be good.
Yeah. And I can't think of any other teams in the NFL that will be tremendously bad, because the Raiders are going to be a lot better with their O-line and with Genty and the offensive weapons and Pete Carroll as their head coach. They're going to do great.
Yes.
And then you go over to the AFC South. The Titans upgraded their team drastically offensively to make it to where they are not in a situation like this next year. Cleveland had filled a lot of holes on their roster. They brought in the guy that brought them to the playoffs a couple years ago and drafted, two young quarterbacks, one that is going to be enough talent. And then they built the defense and the offensive side of the ball and going back to the offensive scheme that they were successful in. And then you go into, the NFC, the NFC North. You're going to have four teams in that division with the Lions, the Packers, the Vikings, and the Bears, who are all going to have success. The only teams I can see having a subpar season with 5 wins or less is the not the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New York Jets, and the New Orleans Saints. I'm telling you, because the quarterback play for those guys is going to be hit or miss, and the roster is not constructed well enough to be, sustainable success.
I think the pros for the Jets are their offensive line is better. I love their offensive line. With Elijah Vera-Tucker, Armand Bembo, and you got Alou Fashanu. I love what they did there. But I think this is all kind of coming together with the plan of Aaron Glenn. I don't expect them to – I expect them to be the Cardinals. I expect them to be that because they're talented in areas. However, this is not their quarterback of the future. This cannot be the quarterback of the future with Justin Fields. So, again, I have nothing against him, but you think about it, you got Jordan Travis, you got
Mason Taylor.
You got Mason Taylor, the tight end, which by the way, doesn't that give you a little bit of Dustin Keller vibes with that Mason Taylor pick?
Dude, I love
Mason.
I was loving Mason Taylor coming out into the draft. I'm like, this dude is going to be special.
Yeah.
And then you got Braylon Allen, you got Breece Hall, you got Garrett Wilson. Like
you have the personnel. Side of the ball. Yes, you have the personnel. Which take for example. You look at Cleveland. Cleveland had to figure out the quarterback situation. But what did they have to do? They had to construct the roster. in order for that to where potentially if their quarterback comes in and he is the quarterback of the future, then everything else comes together and it's simplified. So the Jets have yet to have that. But I love their roster construction. This is a team we've been harping at for several times that this roster construction is capable of being a 14-win team. They just don't have the quarterback yet.
Yep.
It's very capable of it. But yeah, I mean, I just truthfully think Pittsburgh's in trouble. I really do. I love Jack
Pittsburgh will
Sawyer.
get 9 wins like they normally do, and make it to the playoffs.
But do you constantly want to be in this one game above 500 purgatory and be middle of the pack in the draft classes every single year?
I mean, I'm all for it if it means they don't get their franchise quarterback, so that way Cleveland can be better than them.
I know you're gonna love that, but that's
exactly.
But
let them be middle of the pack so they don't get the good players, so that way they can keep being mediocre and we can surpass them. Like let it keep happening. I'm okay with that.
There you go. There's Chase's Cleveland fandom coming out from there, folks. Like you already know. I mean, that's just what really makes him happy. Makes him smile so hard when he sees Pittsburgh's downfall. By the way,
I'm praying for the day when they it comes a quarterback class like the 2022 draft class again, and Pittsburgh gets the number 1 overall pick, and there's no quarterbacks that are worthy of the number 1 overall pick, and they reach, and I'm gonna laugh so hard.
So, by the way, we got an update. The Pacers have won the series against the Bucks. I kind of figured this was going to happen. This is over for the Bucks. I hate to say this for everyone, but Damian Lillard with that injury really killed it. At the same time, he's going to miss significant amount of time come the next season. Is Giannis truthfully going to be there? This whole thing could have been avoided if you did not hire Doc Rivers. This whole thing could have been avoided. But think about it. This team, so in the description, the game, Milwaukee was up 11-0, and they were up 30-13. And Indiana came back. They came back the entirety of the game to where the final score of it was 119-118. I mean, that was a fight through and through, but that is...
Pistons are winning and Magic's winning, so...
I don't know what to do about Milwaukee. I really don't know what to do. This whole thing could have freaking been avoided. But now you're probably going to lose Giannis. You probably will. So what? You got an NBA championship with Mike Budenholzer. But they've had 3 coaches in the last few years. That's insanity, Chase. I can't.
Pick up the Denver the Denver coach that got fired.
Oh God! If they are able to if they are able to do so, then maybe they stand a chance. But I don't know, man. I think Milwaukee is kind of in the similar position of being cheap, like the Pirates. It's really what they are. Okay, you get an NBA championship, so what? But what have you been since the championship? I mean, your roster's kind of getting older. Losing Drew Holiday, by the way, you didn't even have your defensive guard anymore. That does hurt. And then at the same time, you're crossing your fingers that Damian Lillard doesn't suffer another injury.
Giannis,
what are you?
Giannis to the Cavs would be nice.
It sounds to me Silicon Valley might have a play in Giannis. If they do that, it's typical of Golden State. But that
watch the Lakers get him. That'd be
awesome. God. You know what though? I would love to see that future. Luka and Giannis on the same court. That'll sell you some tickets.
Yeah.
And on top of it, I got Dalton Connect and I've got, Austin Reeves. I mean, okay, I like it. But this is where you get at. I mean, it sucks. And again, when I tell you years ago, I thought this was a team that was honestly going to be the relocated team to Las Vegas. If it wasn't for Giannis, that team would have been gone years ago. I mean, they had a championship with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and they had a championship with Giannis. And since then, you've had Ray Allen come in and out of this organization. You thought Monte Ellis was honestly going to pan out on your offense, but yeah. Yeah. There are teams that I feel bad for of their situations, and then there's teams that I don't feel bad for because this is the crap they do every time. That's the definition of insanity. You're expecting different results, and yet you are still the same team. It's like we talked about with the NFL just earlier. This is why you are always a top 10 team in the draft boards next year. You always are. So, yeah. What a disappointment. But they still got the Pacers, and they're on the roll. The Cavs move on. The Pacers move on. I love it. Great show tonight. Appreciate everybody for stopping on by. Casey and myself here up and on the show. We are wrapping it up. Definitely enjoying going to that concert. My rest day, I've already had 2 straight days of workouts. So now I'm ready to just rest and play. It's going to be a fun one. I'll have pictures. I'll have everything. I mean, I love SeatGeek for that reason. The fact that they always hook me up with tickets all the time. Get on SeatGeek, folks. Promo code is SnakeSports for $20 off. If you haven't done so and you haven't heard about it. But yeah, definitely check it out, folks. But Chase and myself, we're getting out of here. Appreciate all of you guys for being up on the show. We'll see you on the next episode of the Snake Sports Talk Show. Take care, guys.